Hmm. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Shaman Marcus. I am from Healing with Marcus. Welcome on board. I appreciate this expression of our life. I appreciate you. I appreciate that we get to sit here and have these pretty much weekly meetups where we can support each other. The theme for these meetups so far are Lightworkers Unite. And what it comes back to is that people who identify, like myself, as a light worker, and in many ways, it would mean we are people of different persuasions and different parts of the world, right? But we are all uniting in the idea that we want to support light on our planet. And what that can mean, light on the planet, right, would mean goodness. It would mean standing up for what you feel is right in your heart. What comes through you or to you intuitively as a knowing. As for you, when you are looking into yourself and you're like, wonder about this particular thing right here. Wonder how that really plays out in the world. Sort of how I started feeling, maybe way over a year ago, like almost 2 years ago. Yeah, actually 2 years ago, when we started the current state of affairs in our world, the current lockdown, the current, um, whatever we want to call it, the big political events that are going on in our world right now, where we are shutting down parts of our world because we're afraid of something that we think will hurt many people. And of course, from that narrative, it makes sense. From the narrative that we are all, oh, I just realized something. Darn it. Well, from the narrative that we are all, from the public narrative, from the narrative of the media, and even from YouTube, and the other social media platforms, from that narrative, we are under great imminent danger. When we look at the numbers and when we look at what many people are saying, the threat isn't as horrible as it sounds when we follow the media. When we follow the media, it seems like we are all going to die right here, right now, that there is no other way around it. And for me, what I have believed is that there are forces to be behind the media that own them, the forces that own the media, that are able to make money and able to stay in control by spreading this kind of fear. And anybody who lives in a lot of fear is easy to be controlled. Like it's easily controllable when it comes to fear-based people. And we can look back in our history, and anytime that we want to control a large number of people, we'll just instill a lot of fear in them, and it becomes very easy to control people. So, looking at what's going on in our world now, and if we look at the statistics that statistically speaking, many people will make it through the illness that's going around our world right now. And many people will die from other illnesses than the big one that's being brought out around our world. And it is kind of fascinating to watch and to see that the fear that's been created and the energy of everything that's going on around us is this the feeling everybody gets is that the only thing that's right now going to kill us is the major illness going on in the world, that nothing else is really dangerous anymore. And if you only get the antidote that so many people are looking for, the in the jab, if you only get that, then you'll be safe. Then nothing can hurt you in this world. That's the narrative that's being spread, right? And when we, if we take a step back, if you zoom out a little bit and you take a step back and you start looking at it from a logic point of view, you're like, so during year 2020 and 2021, almost everybody believed that this one particular thing would kill you, but nothing else was really that bad anymore. And it's an interesting hyper focus on one particular thing. And it's fascinating when you look at from a psychological point of view. There is a expression called hyper focus, and I used to have a lot of hyper focus in my life when it came to relationships. I'd focus on very particular things. Anything that could threaten the relationship, it would be on my radar. And of course, that's all I would see. And nowadays, when we look at the media, how we've been sort of programmed to focus on a certain thing, all we see is this illness that's going around the world right now. And of course, that's not true, right? There's no reality behind it. The reality is that there's still a lot of other things that we could get sick from, and there's a lot of things we're not going to get sick from. There's a lot of us who are going to live our lives out. We're just going to keep going in our world, and some are not. But it's always been like that. It's always been like that. There is no immunity from death itself, right? That is the one thing we are all going to face, no matter what we want to choose to believe or do to ourselves. Our own mortality is something we gotta, we're not going to get away from it, um, and we now I'm going to jump back in a little bit here. I'm going to just introduce myself. I am Shaman Marcus, like I said. I do a thing, I call it Healing with Marcus. It's my business. And what I do for people is healing, healing with people. When I don't, like, I also do other things, but this is what I do here, right? Now, I just wrote a book not too long ago called The Four Elements. It's backwards right here, but it's called The Four Elements We Are Earth Mother. You can find it on Amazon. And I'm talking about how we are all truly made up of the same elements that make up Earth Mother, how we are actually part of the planet it's herself. And I've heard a lot of people who enjoy the book. I've heard a lot of people who have very good experiences with reading it, and it's been doing pretty well on the sales lists, right? So I'm pretty excited to be sharing it with everyone. There's also an app out in the world on the App Store, and it's called Be Still. It's an app with all my meditation videos and all my happy talks. The happy talks are these encouraging talks that I did every week for 3 years or so, and they're on an app called Be Still. Be still, find your peace. And a lot of the things that I do, because I've come across it from my own healing. And my own healing, I mean, it began a long time ago from originally, but the main healing started taking place in 2010 when I found the absolute stillness and the absolute silence within. Of course, before that, I used to be a part of AA. I used to be sober. I used to be, I did all my step work. I had sponsors. I had sponsees. I did a lot of things for 12 years in AA. And then I left, and then I slipped around a little bit in my own world in Mammoth in the snow. But it was beautiful because I got to stand on my own 2 feet. But as I did that, I ended up running into a heartbreak after heartbreak. And the last one was a big humdinger of a heartbreak. And that led me down to looking into spiritual solutions. Because I felt like I was dying, I felt like, and I thought, I only have a few choices here, and the spiritual solution seems to be the most viable one. So I was able to, in a deep state of surrender, follow some Eckhart Tolle videos, and that brought me into a deep state of stillness. From that space, I started meditating on the stillness over and over and over for a long time, like 7 years. Pretty much daily for 7 years, I was meditating, and a lot of things in my life happened. A lot of trauma took place. A lot of things happened, even though I was sitting in meditation. I was still calling in a lot of things into my life. And as I became more and more spiritually whole, I guess, I ended up running into, I was chosen by this one lady. She had started helping me with Reiki and teaching me Reiki because I had a new heartbreak and I needed to see how can I heal my heartbreak. So the first lady started teaching me Reiki, and then the second lady I ran into, she is a shaman, and she was told by her tribe, her spiritual tribe, that she was supposed to initiate me into her tribe. So I was initiated into a spiritual tribe. I call it the kings and queens of old. It has very ancient traditions, and as I got initiated into that, I started walking deeper on the shamanic walk, and that path, it's very, very deep, but it's also extremely healing. And it has afforded me to stand on my own two feet, to feel into what's going on in the world, what's going on within myself. And when we go into that space, when we can afford ourselves and look into what's happening in the world right now, we can start to see it from kind of a sober point of view. Because when we are caught up in fear, you're almost never sober. If you look at any of the violence happening in our world, any of the negativity, any of the drama, it's almost always based in fear. The fear of not having enough, not keeping what you think you have, not, losing a loved one, losing relationship, losing your money, losing something you think you have, leads us to take a lot of actions that can be very unhealthy and they can be very traumatic for everybody involved. So as soon as we lose our balance, as soon as we lose our center, we start falling off, right? Now, last week, only a few days ago, my mom died. And today is January 1st, so we're jumping into the new year. She died on actually, technically yesterday, the last day of 2021. And she had been sick. I mean, for a long time, she'd been very sick, but this last week, she was in the hospital, going in and out of a coma. So me and my brother were able to say our farewells to her. I'm here in America, but she was in Sweden, and we got to send back and forth. We talked on Messenger, on video, the video app. So I got to see her, talk to her, and I know I sat in meditation almost the whole week. I held vigil for her, and it was actually a very beautiful experience, even if it's of course very painful to lose your mother. When we first thought that she was gone last Tuesday, I was floored by grief on and off through the day. It's one of those days when you try to stand up and you can't stand up, and then you get back up, and then you're like, "Oh, okay." And that's that's sort of how grief works. When it really hits you, there's not much you can do at first except to ride the wave of sadness, ride the wave of pain in your heart, ride the wave of tears coming out of your eyes, down your face. And it's really, really, for me at least, it felt very important and healthy and healing to sit with that, with the grief. Because I can feel how it comes and goes through the week here, and it's going to keep coming and going for a while, years. And, but I also know that there are many other parts to losing a parent that aren't only grief. There's an energetic tie between me and my mom that when she's not in suffering anymore, because she was suffering for, like I said, a long time, now that she's not suffering, my energy field, my energy is lighter. And my energy is like, oh, she's not suffering. Because for so many years she was suffering, and I could feel that in my energy, and I felt weighted down, but I didn't know it. I didn't notice it, and I didn't know it. But somewhere I knew that families are always energetically connected, and if somebody in a family aren't doing well, the rest of the family are also affected, is also affected. So it is a very normal thing to feel. And then when my mom now has passed, part of the energy has come into me and made me feel more energy, but there's also a lot of freedom going on in here. So it's been a very healing process. A lot of this is also about sitting in your meditation, sitting with yourself, observing and feeling, like being present in the body. Not trying to escape, not trying to distract myself by any other means, no other means, right? Just stay with the feeling, because that's the only way that we're going to get through it in a healthy way. So I'm sure I'm going to come back to the mom story, but for right now, I also would like to address the idea that many people were saying that 2021 was a hard year, one of the worst years ever, the worst. They were so happy it was over. And I hadn't even noticed that so many people felt so bad about the year. I'd noticed a lot of people felt bad about, you know, people believing in the illness or not believing in the illness, believing that it's a manipulation or believing that it's all true, and that if you're on the side, that I'm on, where I'm asking, questioning the validity of the information we're getting, because it doesn't always ring true. And anytime that you're not allowed to question something the authorities say, we're in deep trouble. We're in deep doo-doo. And that's how I look at it. We can see any totalitarian, authoritarian regime throughout our world, be it in Burma, the Buddhist, be it the communist in China and in Russia, be it um, the Stalin and the Hitler and the Mussolini totalitarianism of Nazism, be it any one of them. They all tried to stop information from flowing because they didn't want any counter information going out there that could interrupt the narrative that they were having. And the way I see what's going on in our world now is exactly the same way, that there is a one established official public view, and everything else is being stopped. It's being censored. And when a society goes into censorship, we are in deep doo doo. It's a dangerous, dangerous path. So, hang on, having my cacao here. Hmm. So, the way that I see that we can get through this healthy, and so 2021, I wasn't aware how many people felt bad about it. Now I can see that a lot of people did feel bad about it. Now they're happy it's over. 2022 feels like a very strong year. It feels like we're moving into a bit of a tricky time, but also a bit of a beautiful, uplifting time. I feel like it's going to get a little darker first and then a lot lighter. It's almost like there's something coming to fruition. Could be that the light workers uniting, that when you're a light worker and you get to sit in your love, in your stillness, in your inner space and peace, that you can access more of those feelings. See, and that's the thing, right? The more you access your inner peace, the more you sit in your meditation, the more you envision yourself both being held in light and full of light. And the more you feel yourself growing roots into Earth Mother, the stronger you both will feel in yourself, the stronger immune system you'll get, the stronger you'll stand on this planet with both feet firmly planted, and the less other people can control you. And that is a beautiful aspect of true freedom and true light beings, right? Light is not controllable the way humans want to control other humans. So one of the ways to get through these what sounds and seems like difficult times, there could be some, I perceive that there are going to be some difficult times coming up, and then it's going to get lighter. I see that the way to get through any of these difficult times, just like what I had to do with my mother's passing just now, is that sitting in deep meditation, letting whatever is going on within you come up and speak. If you feel fear, bring it up and feel it. Feel into it. And then see, is there validity to this fear? Because 99.9% of the time when we're afraid of something, it's not now. We're afraid of something that's happening down the line, that's being predicted. It's going to happen in a year, in 6 months, in 2 months, tomorrow. It's going to, almost like the illness going around, that it was supposed to, everybody was supposed to be afraid. Everybody was supposed to stay at home, wear a mask, just stay still, don't do anything, which is never a solution, right? It's not healthy for anybody to just cower in place. That's not a healthy, proactive solution. So when we look at what's going on, when we look at what's going on in our inner space, when we are being thrown off a little bit, when we're being fear based on different aspects, these fear based aspects are what allows the fear of society, the fear that's being pumped towards us with the media. That fear is being pumped towards us, and if you are open to receive it, meaning you have fear in your system, the hooks come in. If you are sitting in your stillness, in your inner strength, in your very, very, very strong base, with your feet anchored strongly into the ground, your energy system strongly rooted into Earth Mother, then there is no no frequency match for the fear that's coming your way. There's no frequency match inside of you that is going to agree with the message from the media. So if you can sit in your own still and you'd be like, okay, hang on, that doesn't sound true. That sounds like a bunch of fear mongering. Then as you sit still here, you're like, oh yeah, no, that is fear mongering. And of course I can stay safe anyway. Of course I can stay in my space. I can keep healthy, eat my veggies, stay in the sun, be very healthy and proactive in my health. But do I need to live in fear? Is that really helping anybody? Is it helping anybody to get a better life, to feel better inside of themselves? Or does it promote and perpetuate this sense of fear that everybody's supposed to be afraid of each other? That there's nothing really good coming out of our world right now, that it's only dark. And as long as we think, and also, because with fear comes also the idea that it's their fault that I'm feeling this way. So again, we're not taking full responsibility for what's going on within us. And that's the main idea here, is that we come back home. When you come back home, you start to understand when something is throwing you off, even if it's a love affair. Like it took me a few years in sitting in meditation and healing to understand that even if it's a love affair that's throwing me off, even if somebody that I'm in love with deeply and they seem to not want to love me back or whatever it is, then I am depending on their energy so I can feel better. So in meditation and in grounding work, when I can heal my wounds and sit grounded into Earth Mother, I don't have to lean on any other person, no matter who it is, for my own inner health and inner wealth, inner sanctity. So that's where we come into like what's going on in the world now is this bombardment of fear from the media. And the bombardment has gotten much, much stronger and much clearer these last 2 years than before. But it seems to have been many dress rehearsals for these kind of bigger events that are going on now. We live in a world where the sense of control is illusory, right? The sense of control is something that we think that because they can shut down you on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, that we're being controlled. In a way, we're being controlled from the narrative. But in reality, are we really being controlled? And in reality, can you really control a virus or a bacteria from spreading to one place to another, right? Can you control that, because we can take precautions, we can wash our hands, we can stay 6 feet apart when we feel like it's necessary, right? But is it really going to make us so safe that we can't get sick anymore? Is it really going to stop? Because if we treated colds, sorry about that. If we treated colds the way we're treating the illness, the big illness going on, or if we treated influenzas, or flus, the way we're treating the C, then we would be tracing contact everywhere, wherever somebody touched a door handle or sneezed, and then went somewhere or went into a bathroom, and who was that? We would have to track and trace everything because that cold right there was spread to this person over there, and then over there, and then over there. And because now the latest version, the O version of the illness, isn't as harsh as the other versions, right? So we're getting closer to what looks almost like a regular flu. And when we're getting closer to that, but we're still having shutdowns, lockdowns, you know, requirements around the injections, we're starting to move into a very, very scary world. Because if we think about it, the illness going around our world seems to have changed patterns, seems to have changed severity, seems to have changed what it's doing. Also, seems to be spread just as much around the people who have the jab as the people who don't have the jab. And it seems like there aren't many big differences between how we are affected by it. So when you look at that, you can maybe start to question, what's the validity of this pressure that you have to get the injection? Otherwise, you're a bad member of society. Otherwise, you are the pariah. Otherwise, it's your fault that the rest of us are getting sick, even though people who have the jab also keep getting each other sick. It's there's a lot of things that don't really make sense. They don't really seem to be logical. So the main point of today for the Lightworkers Unite talk here is that I would like it for you to find your way into yourself. I'd like it for you to find, how can you find your light? How can you find your stability? How can you find your love? Because sitting in your love, sitting in your light is very much the same. We start to understand, what is it inside of us that's blocking the love? Do you have messages in your mind that is stopping you from feeling healthy and happy about yourself? Are you putting yourself down all the time? Every breath? Are you keeping yourself small so you won't rock the boat, so you won't stir the waves? Or what's going on with you? How do you breathe through into your body and through the contractions that are connected to those feelings and those thoughts? We're on the first day of the new year. We want to begin by manifesting a healthy, happy, solid, good year for ourselves. We want to move into this year with a lot of energy, a lot of power, a lot of light, a lot of love. So I would like to suggest to you that you find your love, find your light, breathe into your body, and get to be more acquainted with the spiritual world. As you move into your own spirituality, you begin to learn that all the things, that all the old writings, all the things that people are talking about, energy being everywhere, light being everywhere, we're light beings, all of that stuff becomes true because it becomes your experience, not something you read in a book, but something you actually experienced. So, shorter talk today. I hope you are doing well. January 1st. Let's make 2022 a beautiful, strong, healthy, happy year with you rooting yourself into yourself, with you getting deeper into your healing. All right. Thank you, everybody. Namaste and aho.